and good evening to everybody. And this is week 12, session 12 of season 2. This sounds just like one of these fancy series you catch on TV. And of course it is. Here we are. It's the 16th of December and a huge welcome to everybody. My name's Sue Macdonald and I'm the curator of these hours plus the midwifery festivals that some of you will know about. And if you don't know about, you need to know about. And I'm really delighted to be with you this evening again. This is the last in this series. We will be coming back, but we're finishing with something a little bit different, which I'm sure you're going to enjoy. I'm certainly going to enjoy. Now, these sessions were designed to give us all some extra continuing profession development for midwives, for student midwives, for people who want to become student midwives, for people who are in the maternity services, just to update themselves. And it really came in. We started them in April in response to the COVID pandemic, really just so people who were isolated or who had to stay at home also had access to something to keep them going. So we say a huge thanks to Matflix, who have sort of developed this all and keep it going underpinning. And this is the place to go for your CPD, for your revalidation. And if you just happen to be having to do an assignment, fantastic place. Now, tonight I'm joined by an old friend, I could say this, Professor Jim Thornton, and a new friend, Rebecca Dewey. And they're with us this evening. And I'll start them off, as we always put our guests on the spot, to say they have to come up with a moment of the week, and it has to be a nice, delicious and positive thing that's summed up the moment for the week. So should we start with Rebecca?
Okay. So since lockdown, I've really been embracing doing all of the things that I wouldn't normally have the chance to travel to geographically. And so we've been, me and my partner and myself have been in the audience of lots of BBC Radio 4 comedy. And we even got to be in the audience of Mock the Week last week. Whoa. And we were on telly. So there we go. Look out for me if you're paying attention.
Wow. She's famous. She's famous. Okay, Jim, now you're going to have to top that one.
Yes, I'll never top that. But I've been a bit slow. In fact, the hospital has been a bit slow in getting going with our weekly rather, COVID lateral flow tests. But eventually, last week or this week, I finally got my kit, and I ran my first test yesterday, and I was all clear, negative, and it worked very well. I could see the line very clearly. I know, of course, most of the audience find these easy because they're pregnancy tests, but it was quite tricky for me. I've never done one before, but it gave a clear answer and I'm okay.
So this is the thing with the swab that you dibby in the fluid and then put on a little...
That's the one, thing. Yes, and it's lateral flow because it goes into the paper and then it flows and the antibody catches it if it's...
So we're just sharing with the people who haven't experienced this yet.
Yes, we will all be doing it before long. It's being rolled out. I gather Rebecca's already doing it in the university, so I'm behind her. Wow.
Okay. Well, that's good. Excellent.
And while I'm on the floor, I'm all booked for my vaccine on the 31st of December.
Oh, fabulous.
About that, 4:10. Yes, that was the first slot I could get.
Fantastic. That's so, and it's such good news, isn't it? I mean, it's really nice now to be seeing the news, and instead of just the statistics and the bad news, which is really sad, to be able to see these older people and NHS frontline staff and care staff having their vaccinations. Fabulous, absolutely fantastic. Really pleased for you, Jim. Thank you for both of your moments of the week. That was fantastic. Now, we usually do start the program with just saying a little bit about COVID because that's where we started. And of course, today has been the first kind of level or tier 3, I have to get the phraseology right, for some places in London and the southeast. Of course, a lot of our friends up in the north and in the middle of the country have been living with tier 3 for a while, so we have a lot of fellow feeling. It's difficult times, and it's difficult as we're approaching a sort of festive period, but we just need to be patient, and we need to look after each other and carry on together with that. And really, again, I want to say a big acknowledgement and thank you to all the staff who are keeping things going in the A&E departments, who are very busy at the moment, the intensive care and high dependency units, who are still looking after people who are sick with COVID, some who haven't got COVID, but keeping things going. And we send out love and thanks to them and their families, because their families are having to live with, their family not being there all the time. And for some people, that's very difficult. And a big hug and a thank you, again, as I always say, to our colleagues in the maternity services who are keeping everything going. We always say, again, you can't cancel pregnancy and childbirth. It just carries on. And the staff have to keep carrying on and have to keep strong and safe themselves, and keep women and babies and families safe as well. And it has been a very difficult time. Also, anyone who is, and I have this in my mind because last week we were looking at long COVID, we're sending goodwill to people who are suffering from long COVID, who are recovering, also people who are recovering from COVID itself, kind of in, the norm. I don't know if normal is the right word, but it's a difficult time. It's not like any other illness where you get sick and then you're suddenly better. It takes time, and we need to look after people who've been sick and really learn more about it. So we're going to revisit long COVID at a later date. And also good wishes to people who are self-isolating and recovering at the moment, because if you're self-isolating, that can be as frustrating as being sick as well. And a big thank you, as I always say, to all the key workers. I'm continuously reminded of how many people are just keeping the place going and keeping us safe, keeping us fed and watered, keeping everything going as we need it to go. Thank you. You're all wonderful. And I want to do a big virtual hug, which we can't at the moment do proper hugs, so it has to be virtual. Now, I'm just going on to the news. We've got, and Jim is what a very great example, is going to be having the vaccine the end of December. The vaccine is being distributed and is giving, I think the focus is still on the older people, but also care home workers and some frontline NHS staff. So this is the one where you have 2 jabs, 3 weeks apart, isn't it, Jim?
That's exactly right. Yeah. 3 weeks apart. Yeah.
Fab. So that's all going ahead. So it'll be a while. We still have to be patient, but it's on the line at the moment. And other news this week, and I think there's been the ongoing review into maternity services at Shrewsbury, led by Donna Ockenden, and that's really engaging a lot of discussion about the safety of maternity care, especially the issue of normal birth, but also about how much we listen to women and how we involve them in their care. There's going to be a lot of debate about that. And at this point, I'll say, if you want to read the report so far, and this is interim report, I think it's still ongoing, there is a link on the resources page right to the report for those who'd like to read that, and it will be useful to read that. Also, the Health and Social Care Committee were taking evidence this week from Donna Ockenden and from the founders of 5 Times More, and that's Tanuki and Clotilde, I hope I pronounced their name correctly, plus Professor Marion Knight from Embrace and Jenny Kernzek from NPU. Very interesting evidence was presented, and a lot of discussion again around normal birth and how we treat women and how we listen to women and how we need to be very aware about the disparities between women of colour, black and brown women, whichever term you'd like to use. I think the BAME term is now going out a little bit. And I must admit, the minority word is uncomfortable. I find it personally uncomfortable. So again, have a look at the report. This isn't the report. There's a link on the resources page to the actual committee meeting. And if you haven't looked at a select committee before, or looked at the evidence and the way they gather things, and that this is for students and for midwives. It's really interesting because they don't let people get away with just saying anything. They really drill down and ask very specific questions, and they're a very powerful all-party group. So it's very interesting to listen to. So that it's there for you if you want. And now on to lighter things. At the weekend, I understand that it's the final of Strictly. For some of you, you might be fans. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of TV watching over the weekend. And it's also MasterChef professional final this week as well, for those of you cooking fiends. So there's something for everyone here. And of course, next week it's Christmas. So I would just say personally, just stay cautious and stay safe and look after yourselves at this point, and be a bit creative. I'm getting into very Zoomy, and I'm going to myself have a little party with some friends, glass of wine rather than water, and the Zoom, because you can still have a jolly good chat and a good laugh and a little bit of glass of wine, a bit of maybe a mince pie even, if I'm a bit saucy with that. Okay, so remember, check out your resources page for all these resources, and do look at the select committee. Is really interesting. So we're going to move on to the main meat of the evening, and we're going to have a discussion on reverse mentorship. Now, this was a new term for me, and many of our viewers, maybe there's some of you out there who know about this, and if so, I'm sure you can send some questions or, share what your experience. But I know that many of our viewers are familiar with the word mentoring and preceptorship and all those sort of terms, but this was a bit different. And this term was used is when a worker in a senior position, and I think Rebecca might put me right on this, is mentored by someone in a more junior position than they themselves. And the issue about this is that there's very little guidance on how to do it. There's little research on the impact of it, and very little theoretical underpinning of this mechanism for change. And it's very, I'm going to leave much more of it to Rebecca and Jim to share. But since July, Jim has been receiving reverse mentoring from Rebecca. And this is an exciting pilot scheme at the University of Nottingham. So I'm going to start by introducing Rebecca, and I'm delighted to do so. She's she obtained an undergraduate master's degree in physics with theoretical physics from the University of Manchester in 2008. Then she moved into Nottingham to study for her PhD in advanced functional neuroimaging in the Division of Radiological and Imaging Sciences. I can't even say it well, so I'm just amazed in this. And she got that in 2012, and she now works as a research fellow in the neuroimaging at the Sir Peter Mansfield Imaging Centre, also in Nottingham. And I'd like to welcome Rebecca, who's going to start this presentation. So welcome, Rebecca. The screen is now yours.